This is Lorenzo, and this is the Training Space Taxonomy video series, lesson number 1. If you're watching this, then this means you're finally ready to take control of your training destiny by first taking control of your training space. Because we know that if you want to change your behavior, you have to change your space and environment first. In this series, you're going to learn how to match the right piece of training equipment and training space with the right strategy aligned exercise to make sure that you achieve your fitness objectives. You're also going to learn the 11 critical non-negotiable home pieces of gym equipment that everyone should have that will also make up your home gym. Finally, you're going to learn the 5 steps to designing your own home gym from scratch. But in order to do that, we first need to develop a strong foundational understanding of the 9 facets that make up this taxonomy. So let's go ahead and do that now. As previously mentioned, the main goal of the Training Space Taxonomy is to teach you the skill of learning to match the right spatial tool or piece of equipment and where it should be placed with the right strategy-aligned exercise so that you can achieve your training goals. The biggest mistake that people make when they start the training journey is that they don't set clear objectives, strategies for their training. They just jump to the tactics. Our equipment is basically our tactics. And if you do that, this means you're going to first buy the equipment, hoping that that's just going to give you results. And then you're trying to program around the equipment that you bought. Instead, what you should be doing is setting objectives and clear strategies and then selecting and acquiring equipment based on how it fits with the exercises you need to implement to fulfill the strategy as a way to fulfill the objective. Now, in order for us to fulfill the mandate of this taxonomy, we need to have intimate knowledge of the 9 facets that make it up, namely the 3 training tactic domains, the 3 equipment space domains, and the 3 routine exercise domains. Now, one of the most useful models we can use in terms of thinking about our training equipment and spaces is that of stationary zones, open floor spaces, and stored accessories. And as the name suggests, stationary zones are zones in your training space that are fixed and where the equipment can't easily be moved around. So think store bar against the wall or rings suspended from a ceiling. We will discuss 4 specific stationary zones in the series and also 4 pieces of equipment belonging to each of those zones. Next, no gym is complete if it doesn't have dedicated floor space. So in most commercial gyms, this is like a studio, but even at home, you need open space where you can really practice most of your bodyweight training skills. Also, this is a space that lends itself really well for bringing in mobile equipment to practice certain skills. For example, we will use the box, parallettes, and parallel bars. So 3 pieces of equipment that we will use in an open floor space. In terms of stored accessories, as the name suggests, these are all the different pieces of equipment that we can store away, like in a closet or just out of sight. But these are pieces of equipment that we could easily use in our stationary as well as our open floor zones. As for our next 3 facets, or our routine exercises, presents another model in which we can think about our training equipment or training space. And that is in terms of the exercise practice type: mobility, stability, and power. When we think of mobility training, the equipment that we usually need for mobility training is in terms of, number 1, cushion support. So think of a mat that reduces the pressure when we do certain stretches. Secondly, positional support. Think of yoga blocks that we can use to help us get into a certain position to help us improve our range of motion. And number 3 is weighted support. So imagine we're doing our butcher's block stretch. This will both put us in the right position, but also add some load to the stretch. We can also think of our equipment in terms of the structural support that it gives us for our stability exercises, or the structural support specific to our strength exercises that will either be closed kinetic chain support, such as the floor, parallel bars, or also open kinetic chain support, such as with the gymnastics rings. Putting these together or cross-referencing these different facets with each other gives us stationary zone mobility training, such as doing the hip spin up on a mat, or we can have open floor stability work like doing scap shrugs or an L-sit. We can have stored accessories strength training. In other words, we could use a band to do assisted pull-ups. As for our last 3 facets or our training tactics, we have our equipment space, which refers to the relationship between a piece of equipment and the space in which it is used. For example, mat goes with floor, rings go with suspension, stall bar goes with wall, and there will be 11 specific equipment pieces that we will run through. As for our specs guide or our specifications guide, here we will explore the 3 criteria by which we will define what makes a piece of equipment high quality or bad quality, suitable or ill-suited, and that is going to be based on the equipment's function, its material structure, and finally, its compatibility with other pieces of equipment. It's not just about the equipment that you buy, but how compatible is it with all the other pieces of equipment. Finally, we have exercise options, which is perhaps the most useful facet of this entire taxonomy, because we want to be able to look up what exercises can we do with what piece of equipment. And it will fall into one of 2 categories. The first is the primary category. What was this exercise piece of equipment designed to do primarily? And then secondarily, what else can we do with this piece of equipment that what it wasn't necessarily designed for? We call that substitutional or supplementary exercises. For example, the dip bars, which is designed for body dips, can be repurposed for the back lever, which is substituting the rings. Or it can be used for leg raises, substituting the stall bars. Together, these 9 facets allow us to create a very powerful matrix that will allow us to evaluate the minimal, most useful pieces of gym equipment that we will need to create our own home gym from scratch and that we will use for the rest of our lives.